First strike. The stars had always called to humanity. For centuries, we dreamed of reaching them, and when we finally did, we thought we'd found our destiny. We were wrong. We'd found our trial by fire instead. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the Earth Defense Station Arcturus, watching the gleaming ships of the Concordiate's diplomatic fleet approach. These vessels, with their organic-looking hulls that shimmered like mother-of-pearl, had been a common sight in Earth's orbit for the past decade. The Concordiate, an alliance of 7 ancient spacefaring species, had welcomed humanity into the galactic community with open arms. Or so we thought. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Concordiate vessels," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with concern. "They don't match their usual diplomatic configurations." Chen's eyes narrowed. After 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, she'd learned to trust her instincts. Something felt wrong. The Concordiate ships were spreading out in a pattern that looked less like a diplomatic formation and more like battle stations. Chen's order came just seconds before the first shot was fired. The Concordiate's leading vessel unleashed a beam of pure energy that cut through Earth's orbital defense grid like it was paper. Alarms blared throughout the station as more enemy ships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons already charging. "Get me Earth Command!" Chen barked, her fingers flying over the tactical display. "And initiate Protocol Omega." The attack was devastating in its precision. The Concordiate had clearly studied Earth's defenses for years, knowing exactly where to strike. Within hours, every major military installation on Earth's surface was either destroyed or under siege. The orbital defense network, humanity's pride and joy, lay in ruins. But the Concordiate had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they'd assumed humanity's military capability was limited to what they'd been allowed to observe. Second, they'd underestimated humanity's paranoia, the trait that had kept us alive through countless wars and natural disasters. And third, they'd forgotten that humans fight hardest when cornered. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility whose existence was known to only a handful of people, General Marcus Webb received the emergency transmission from Earth. He stood in a vast underground chamber, surrounded by rows of advanced warships that had never seen the light of day. Project Shadow Fleet, humanity's insurance policy against exactly this kind of betrayal. "They really did it," Webb muttered, reading the casualty reports from Earth. "They really thought they could wipe us out in one strike." He turned to his staff, his face set with grim determination. "Begin awakening the crews. Initiative Operation Lazarus." Across the solar system, in bunkers hidden beneath the ice of Europa, the clouds of Venus, and the rocks of the asteroid belt, similar orders were being given. Humanity had prepared for this possibility since the day we first met alien life. We smiled, we traded, we shared technology, but we never stopped building. Never stopped preparing. The Concordiate's ships hung in Earth's orbit, their commanders confident in their victory. Their sensors showed Earth's military capability at less than 15% of its original strength. Their analysis predicted surrender within 24 hours. They didn't detect the massive energy signatures building up beneath Mars's surface. They didn't notice the quantum disturbances in Jupiter's orbit where humanity's real fleet had been hiding, cloaked by technology we'd never shared. They had no idea that their decisive strike had just awakened a sleeping giant. Admiral Chen, watching from her damaged but still functional station, allowed herself a small smile as she received the coded transmission from General Webb. The Concordiate had tried to cut off humanity's head in one swift stroke. Now they would learn why every human child knew the story of the Hydra. The Hidden Fleet. The Martian dust storms provided perfect cover as the first ships of Project Shadow Fleet rose from their underground hangars. These weren't the sleek, diplomatic vessels humanity had shown to the galaxy. These were predators, built for war, their black hulls absorbing virtually all electromagnetic radiation. General Webb stood on the bridge of the DSV Nemesis, humanity's first true dreadnought. At 2 kilometers long, it carried enough firepower to level a continent. But its true strength lay in its revolutionary quantum drive, technology humanity had discovered but kept hidden from the Concordiate. All ships reporting ready, sir, His XO, Commander Diana Patel, announced. Quantum signatures are masked. The enemy still hasn't detected us. Webb nodded, studying the tactical display. The Concordiate fleet orbiting Earth had grown complacent in their victory. Their ships were arranged in standard patrol patterns, their energy weapons powered down to minimal levels. They believed they were simply waiting for humanity's surrender. Send the signal to all fleet commanders, Webb ordered. Execute Phase 1 of Operation Lazarus. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden forces began to move. From Europa, a swarm of automated drone carriers emerged from beneath the ice. The clouds of Venus parted as stealth destroyers rose into space. Throughout the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into military staging grounds as weapons platforms activated. The Concordiate had thought they knew everything about human military capability. They'd studied our visible fleets, analyzed our apparent technology level, calculated our industrial capacity. But they'd missed something fundamental about human nature: we never show all our cards. On Earth, Admiral Chen was coordinating the ground resistance. The Concordiate's orbital bombardment had destroyed most military bases, or so they thought. But for every visible installation, humanity had built 3 hidden ones. Underground cities, bunkers deep within mountains, submarine bases beneath the oceans, humanity had spent the last decade preparing for this possibility. Status report from Ground Team Alpha, her communications officer announced. The quantum entanglement network is intact. We can coordinate with the hidden fleet without the enemy detecting our transmissions. Chen allowed herself a moment of pride. The Concordiate's attack had been precise, but they targeted what they could see. They hadn't wondered why humanity's observed military spending seemed so inefficient, why we built such obvious facilities. They hadn't realized those were just the decoys. In high orbit around Jupiter, Admiral James Koenig commanded the technological crown jewel of humanity's hidden fleet, the carrier group Prometheus. 6 massive vessels, each housing hundreds of fighters equipped with pilots who had trained in secret for years. The ships themselves carried humanity's most closely guarded breakthrough, the ability to manipulate gravity itself as a weapon. All carriers report quantum drive spooled and ready, his tactical officer reported. Gravitational weaponry is primed. The enemy's shields won't know what hit them. The Concordiate's arrogance had led them to believe they'd shared advanced technology with humanity out of benevolence. They hadn't realized that humans had already discovered many of these principles independently, following different paths of scientific development. While they showed us their energy weapons, we perfected gravity control. While they demonstrated their shield technology, we developed ways to bypass shields entirely. Signal from General Webb, Commander Patel announced on the Nemesis. All forces are in position. Awaiting your command to begin the counterattack. Webb took a deep breath, looking at the tactical display one last time. The Concordiate ships still floated serenely in Earth orbit, unaware that they were now surrounded. Humanity's hidden fleet had emerged from its decade-long slumber, and the galaxy was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating human ingenuity. Send the order, Webb commanded. Operation Lazarus is now active. Let's show them what humanity can really do. As one, across the solar system, humanity's true fleet began to move. The Concordiate had sought to exterminate what they saw as a potential threat. Instead, they had awakened humanity's full military might, and triggered the very conflict they had sought to prevent. The real war was about to begin. Counterstrike. The first indication the Concordiate had that something was wrong came when their gravity sensors started failing. Not through malfunction or damage, the readings simply stopped making sense. Where there should have been empty space, massive gravitational distortions appeared and vanished like ghosts. High Admiral Vex Thor of the Concordiate flagship Eternal Dominion dismissed the initial reports as sensor malfunctions. That was his first mistake. The human counterattack began with no warning, no ultimatum, and no mercy. The Prometheus carrier group struck first, their gravity weapons creating localized singularities that torn apart 3 Concordiate dreadnoughts before their crews could even react. The supposedly primitive humans had not only mastered gravity manipulation but had weaponized it in ways the Concordiate had never imagined possible. Multiple hostile contacts, screamed the Concordiate sensor operators. They're everywhere. The Shadow Fleet emerged from its stealth approach, their black hulls finally reflecting the light of Earth's sun as they powered up their weapons. General Webb's voice transmitted across all frequencies, intended as much to demoralize as to communicate. This is General Marcus Webb of the Human Defense Force. You came to our home. You attacked without provocation. Now you'll learn why that was the biggest mistake your species has ever made. The Nemesis opened fire, its main gun utilizing principles of quantum mechanics that the Concordiate had deemed theoretically impossible. The beam passed straight through their most advanced shields as if they weren't there, cutting one of their largest battleships in half. From the asteroid belt, humanity's automated weapons platforms revealed themselves. What the Concordiate had dismissed as simple mining operations turned out to be sophisticated weapon systems. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously, each using miniaturized quantum drives to perform maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Admiral Chen coordinated the ground response, as surviving Earth Defense Forces launched a synchronized attack with the Space Fleet. Hidden anti-orbital weapons emerged from their camouflaged positions, their targeting systems linked to the quantum entanglement network that the Concordiate hadn't detected. Status report. High Admiral Vex Thor demanded, watching in horror as his fleet was systematically torn apart by weapons and tactics his species had never encountered. We've lost 30% of the fleet, his subordinate reported, mandibles clicking in distress. Their weapons, they're not following any known principles of physics. Our shields are useless. The human fleet moved with precision that bordered on prescience. The quantum entanglement network allowed them to coordinate their attacks with zero communication delay, their ships moving in perfect synchronization across the entire solar system. From Venus, the stealth destroyer group emerged from the planet's clouds, their hulls still glowing from the heat. They brought with them another surprise, electromagnetic pulse weapons that could penetrate Concordiate shields, specifically designed to target their biomechanical ship systems. Admiral Koenig's carriers launched their fighters, which demonstrated yet another capability the Concordiate hadn't prepared for. The small craft could generate their own quantum fields, allowing them to ignore the normal limitations of inertia. They pulled maneuvers that would have turned any other pilot to paste, their neural-linked pilots working in perfect harmony with their machines. This is impossible. Vex Thor raged as another of his capital ships disappeared into a localized singularity. They were primitives. We monitored their development. No, Webb's voice came again across the command channel. You saw what we wanted you to see. You studied our visible military, analyzed our public technology, and never once asked why we seemed so inefficient, so obvious in our developments. The Nemesis appeared directly in front of the Eternal Dominion, having crossed the distance instantaneously through what the Concordiate had believed to be impossible spacetime manipulation. Humanity learned long ago, Webb continued, that the best way to survive is to always keep an ace up your sleeve. You thought you were studying us, but we were studying you. Every piece of technology you shared, we took apart, improved, and developed countermeasures against. Every weakness in your systems, we documented and prepared to exploit. The battle was becoming a rout. The Concordiate fleet, which had arrived expecting to accept humanity's surrender, was now fighting desperately just to survive. Their formations broke apart as they tried to escape the overlapping fields of fire, only to find themselves herded into killing zones by the gravity weapons. In Earth orbit, Admiral Chen watched with grim satisfaction as humanity's true military capability was finally unveiled. The Concordiate had sought to eliminate what they saw as a potential threat. Instead, they had forced humanity to reveal just how justified their fears had been. The counterstrike would go down in history as one of the most one-sided battles ever fought in space. Not because of superior numbers or brute force, but because of humanity's fundamental approach to warfare: always prepare for the worst, never show your full hand, and when forced to fight, do so with overwhelming force and innovation. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived countless extinction-level events on their home world. Evolution had taught us well: adapt, innovate, and never fight fair when survival is at stake. The truth emerges. The capture of the Eternal Dominion marked the turning point of the war. High Admiral Vexthor, now a prisoner aboard the Nemesis, faced General Webb across a simple metal table in the ship's interrogation room. The Admiral's crystalline eyes reflected the harsh lighting as he struggled to comprehend humanity's devastating victory. "I don't understand," Vexthor said, his translator struggling to convey his mix of fear and awe. "Your species is barely 1,000 years into space travel. We've been among the stars for millions of years. How could you have developed all of this without us knowing?" Webb placed a data crystal on the table, recovered from the Concordiate flagship's computers. "Maybe you should be asking yourself why your species, with millions of years of advancement, couldn't detect what we built in just a decade." The data crystal contained the truth behind the Concordiate's attack. It wasn't just fear of humanity's military potential that had driven them to strike. It was something far more fundamental: humanity's rate of advancement. Dr. Sarah Harrison, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, had been studying the recovered Concordiate records. In a secure briefing room aboard the Nemesis, she presented her findings to the assembled human leadership. "The Concordiate species all follow a similar pattern of development," she explained, gesturing to charts showing evolutionary timelines. "Their technological advancement occurs in predictable stages over millions of years. But humans, we're different. We advance exponentially." The evidence was clear in the Concordiate's own analysis. Where their species took thousands of years to move from one technological stage to the next, humanity had gone from primitive radio to space travel in less than a century. Our neural architecture allowed us to adapt and innovate at a pace that the ancient species found both fascinating and terrifying. "They didn't attack us because of what we are," Harrison continued. "They attacked us because of what we were becoming. Their projections showed that at our current rate of advancement, we would surpass their technology level within a century." Admiral Chen, attending via quantum link from the rebuilt Earth Defense Station, nodded grimly. "So they decided to eliminate the threat before it fully emerged. Classic preemptive strike." But the recovered data revealed something even more profound. The Concordiate weren't just afraid of human military potential, they were afraid of how we thought. Human creativity, our ability to look at problems from multiple angles, our tendency to question established principles, these were alien concepts to species that had evolved along more rigid, predictable paths. "Look at this," Harrison highlighted a section of the Concordiate analysis. "They couldn't comprehend why we kept developing alternative technologies even after they shared their superior versions with us. The idea of pursuing multiple solutions to the same problem was completely foreign to them." The truth became clear: the Concordiate's attack wasn't just about preventing a future military threat. It was an attempt to preserve their understanding of how the universe should work. Humanity's rapid advancement and unconventional thinking threatened to upend millions of years of established galactic order. General Webb studied the reports from the ongoing battles across Concordiate space. Their initial strike against Earth had failed, and now humanity's hidden fleet was systematically dismantling their military infrastructure. But the question remained: what would humanity do with its victory? "They tried to destroy us because they couldn't control us," Webb mused, looking out at the stars from the Nemesis's observation deck. "Because we represented uncertainty in their ordered universe. The question now is, do we prove them right about their fears, or do we show them a better way?" The answer came from an unexpected source. During the interrogation, Vexthor revealed that the Concordiate had encountered other young species with similar potential for rapid advancement. All had been quietly eliminated or deliberately stunted in their development, their civilizations guided down safer, more predictable paths through carefully controlled technological sharing. This revelation sparked outrage among the human leadership, but it also provided clarity about humanity's role in the galaxy. We hadn't just been fighting for our own survival, we had unknowingly been fighting for the right of all young species to develop on their own terms. As the dust settled from the initial battles, humanity began to understand its new position in the galactic order. We had not only survived the Concordiate's attempt to eliminate us, we had shattered their assumption about how species should develop and interact. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would be the catalyst. New Dawn. 3 months after the initial Concordiate attack, Earth's skyline had changed. The orbital defense platforms were being rebuilt, but now they shared space with something new, massive diplomatic stations designed to host representatives from the younger species of the galaxy, those who had been suppressed by the Concordiate for so long. Admiral Chen stood in the newly constructed Chamber of Nations aboard the largest station, watching as representatives from 24 emerging civilizations took their seats. Some were barely into their space age, others had been deliberately held back for centuries. All had been victims of the Concordiate's rigid vision of how species should develop. "Welcome to Earth space," she addressed the assembled delegates. "You're here because humanity has chosen a different path than our predecessors. We believe that every species has the right to develop on their own terms, at their own pace." On Mars, General Webb oversaw the transformation of the Shadow Fleet's underground facilities into the galaxy's first open technology exchange. The hidden shipyards that had protected humanity's secrets were now being used to share knowledge with species who had been denied the right to advance. "The key," Webb explained to a group of alien engineers examining human quantum drive technology, "isn't just the technology itself. It's the process of discovery. We're not here to give you our solutions, we're here to help you find your own." The Concordiate's remaining leadership had been given a choice: adapt to the new galactic order or face complete dismantlement. Most chose to adapt, though some retreated to their core worlds, unwilling to accept a universe where their ancient wisdom no longer ruled supreme. Dr. Harrison's team made a breakthrough in understanding why humans were so different. "It's not just our neural architecture," she explained to the United Earth Council. "It's our entire evolutionary history. Earth's constantly changing environment forced us to adapt rapidly, to think creatively, to question everything. We never had the luxury of millions of years of stability that the Concordiate species enjoyed." This understanding led to humanity's first major initiative in the new galactic order, the Freedom to Evolve Protocol. Under this agreement, no advanced species could interfere with the natural development of emerging civilizations unless they asked for help. Even then, assistance had to be given in a way that encouraged independent development rather than creating dependency. High Admiral Vexthor, who had chosen to remain on Earth as an advisor, watched these changes with growing understanding. "We thought order meant control," he admitted to Webb during one of their now regular discussions. "You've shown us that true stability comes from embracing diversity and change." The Nemesis, once humanity's hidden weapon, became the flagship of a new fleet. But this fleet's mission wasn't conquest or control, it was exploration and protection. They sought out young civilizations that had been hidden or suppressed by the Concordiate, offering them a chance to join the new galactic community as equals. A year after the failed attack on Earth, humanity hosted the first Galactic Innovation Summit. Species from across the galaxy shared their unique approaches to technology, science, and social organization. The pace of advancement accelerated as different perspectives combined to solve problems in ways the Concordiate had never imagined possible. "We could have chosen revenge," Admiral Chen reflected, watching ships from a dozen species dock at Earth's new diplomatic station. "Instead, we chose to build something new. Something better." The galaxy had changed forever. The rigid hierarchy of the past had been replaced by a dynamic network of civilizations, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. Humanity had emerged from the crucible of war not as conquerors, but as catalysts for a new age of growth and discovery. As Webb stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, watching ships from former Concordiate worlds arrive for diplomatic talks, he smiled. The stars had indeed called to humanity, but not to test our strength in war. They had called us to prove that there was a better way, that the future belonged not to those who sought to control it, but to those who dared to imagine it differently. The dawn of a new galactic age had begun, and humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from our hidden fleets or advanced technology. It had come from our ability to show the galaxy a different path forward, one where diversity was strength, and where every species had the right to reach for the stars in their own way.